Yeah, well, good morning. Um, we're here. We've got a green screen going. Lovely graphics behind us. New microphone. A couple of new things. We've got some features. I can hit the air horn now. And yeah, we've got some applause for that. Yeah. So I hope everyone's been going good. Took a couple of weeks off to try and get some things set up. It's still sort of running a little bit weird, but yeah, slowly but surely getting there. Hello to everyone that's tuned in so far. Hope the audio is okay. So yeah, we have a hotline going. If you want to go over there and sort of give us a call, we take voicemails on there. You can leave a message and we can answer it on here. So the number's 0417076598. That's 0417076598. Yeah, so give the potline a call. If for no other reason than the voicemail is pretty funny. So this week, I thought we would go over some clones and seeds, try and do some sort of a live demo, see what we can hook up for that. And yeah, as usual, some questions and answers at the end. So yeah, I will head over to camera 2. Just give me 1 second or a couple of minutes, and we'll start setting some things up. Ah, okay. So I got it working. The audio is probably going to be a bit quieter though because I've only got one mic. So yeah. Yes, test crew. So yeah, hello. All right. So I have some seeds. We have some lovely coriander seeds. Can it be seen on the Instagram? It's going to be definitely a better view on the YouTube because we can sort of set everything up properly. I wonder if maybe if I swap to this one, if that helps at all. Ah, hang on. It won't let me do that while I'm live. All right. So you can see I'm here, I think. There's such a delay between the. There's such a delay. All right. So we're going to try and show some. You've got some seeds. They're a bit old. I've had these coriander seeds for quite a while. So we want to jazz them up. We want to try and make them work a little bit better, grow a little bit more. So yeah, what I will. Oh, hang on, did I forget it? No, I didn't. Very, very good. Okay, so seeds, and what we're going to do is we're going to. Firstly, we're going to clean them really thoroughly because, I mean, depending on the condition of your seeds, how long they've been stored. Um, Give me a shout out if you can actually hear the audio because I'm not quite sure. A lapel mic would have probably been good in retrospect. Hang on, wait a minute. Can I just do this? Oh, no. Probably don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, cool. All right, Cause is giving me the all clear. All right, so I'm just going to add some of them into the thing. And the first step we're going to do is we're just going to H2O2 rinse them. Because we don't know the condition of the seeds. We don't know if there's any spores. Seems to be getting better as my head gets closer to it. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, we don't know the condition of the seeds. There could be spores on them. At the very least, we should give them a clean. So the peroxide that I was able to get is a 6%. So that's, quite a bit too much. So I'm just going to dilute that right down to around 1.5. Yeah, the video is pretty potato salad. But, audio plus video. We should be able to figure it out, right? All right, so we're going to do that. We'll give it a bit of stir with my little forceps. Mm-hmm. And then we'll add that into the glass vial. Back the cap on. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shake that, agitate that for a bit. Super exciting viewing. But yeah, so the H2O2 step, what that's going to do is really get in there and clean it. There is also a direct stimulatory response on seeds just by applying hydrogen peroxide in dilute quantities. So we're going to leave that on there and you'll see it. Let's see, it's starting to get bubbles on the outside. I mean, apart from the shaking bubbles, there's actual bubbles from the reaction. So just let that happen for a little while until you see like really fine bubbles on the outside seed coat. So it's starting to happen there. So that's giving a really thorough cleaning. I love props. Gives me something to do with my hands. Right, and then to make it easy to strain them out, what I like to use is just a tea strainer and a glass. So, you can let that sit for a while longer if you like, but I mean, I'm satisfied with that for now. So I'll pop the top off and pour that through. And just use that little bit of that leftover solution to just grab the rest of them because there's always a couple of stragglers that stick to the tube. Right, and then we're going to take a bit more water and just rinse over those. Give it a little tap. don't drop it in the glass like a moron, like I do. All right. Then what I'll do is the next thing I would be using would be Green Supreme. Um, there's a number of benefits to using that. It has an effect on recharging the embryo somewhat. And I find that I get better growth rates even out of fresh seeds, but it just tends to help with germination, especially on older stuff. So sort of helps with charging up um, those older seeds. So I love these little compostable cups. A little bit of water in there. Um, I'm not going to drink the Green Supreme Grow Green Daddy, but you shouldn't either. Now, if you want to measure it out, the amount is 1 gram per liter. But what I do is basically just add enough to color the water. So, see if we can't get that on camera. Can we get it? Yeah. Cool. I refuse to drink it. All right. Give it another little stir. And so the water shouldn't look, really dark or anything like that. It'll basically just be mildly coloured. Rightio. And then here's the longer part. Put that on there, then just give it a flick. And I'll take them all off there and into there. Hard to do on camera. And then now you've got them in your cup. Pour your Green Supreme in there. And sit that somewhere for about 12 to 24 hours, depending. I mean, those 12 hours is perfectly fine. And after 12 hours, put them in your soil. One further step you can do with that actually is, and I'll show you that in a second. So, all right. So, hang on. What do we do? How do we do the Presto Changeo thing like this? Oh, look at that. It's been 12 hours. Like it was 12 hours, just like that. So, so it's there. It's been 12 hours. What we're now going to do is get them back out of the glass. So pour that, again into there. Hey, Patrick. Sheer Organic, Patrick, Catnip, Grow Green Daddy, of course, Asphalt, Dank Panda, Cause, Hydro Haven, Sweet Baby May, Aussie Gunja, Charlie Hempseed, and everybody else that I've missed because I'm trying to, do stuff more. All right. So the extra step you can do once you've got them out of there is you can just give those a little dust with some antimatter. So I like to do it that way while it's still in the little thing, and I'll just dust that over the top of them. That much is fine. So they're covered. They're not caked in it, but they're covered. And then I will normally go straight into dirt. What some other people will do is they will use some of these like cotton makeup pads, hydrate those. So, a misting bottle is actually preferable, but you really just want to add a small amount. Like it shouldn't be sopping wet. That's probably even too much. Set that aside and it'll wick. And then if you use one to mop up the other one, usually you can make that up. Oh, that's antimatter, that one there. So that was what I dusted them with. It doesn't help that you can't see a lot on the Instagram feed, I guess. But anyway. All right. So yeah, hydrate makeup pads go into there and germinate them that way. I don't personally like doing that though. What I like to use is these little cups. The bigger ones, preferably. Those are better for clones. But those, they're sort of a wax paper cup. I'll whack about 4 holes around the rim. One in the middle. Boom. And I just like those paper ones because the plastic ones are annoying and they're not compostable, whereas those ones at least break down. So I like to germinate straight in soil, so I'll use Super Starter. You can use whatever your germination medium of choice is, but that's what I like to use. And it sort of comes out of the bag. Let me get some out. Sort of about that level of moistness. So we're going to want to hydrate that a little bit more because that's more of a storage sort of a moisture level rather than an immediate germination level. You can do this straight in the bag, or you can do it, you know, in a smaller, I'm just going to use a sandwich bag. You guys will have sandwich bags around. You should have sandwich bags around. If not, get creative. Find something. All right. Had about that much. Yeah, that's about right. Get the bag all dirty now. Yep. Sweet. Cool. All right. And then I will probably want to add about, these cups are about 100 ml. So I'm going to want to add probably about half one of them. Start with half one of them, but I'll show you. Half one of them. Chuck it in there. Put the jug in front of the camera so no one can see what I'm doing. All right, zip it closed. I really like the bags that have like 2 zippers. There's the really cheap ones that don't, kind of suck. Just kind of move that around a little bit. There we go. Sweet. Because what we want to do is get it to the point where it feels like kind of Anzac biscuit batter. That's basically there, I think. That's basically there. All right, so if I squeeze the hell out, yeah, I can get just a couple of drops. That's what we want. That's perfect. All right, now I will then put it in the little pots. So that, you know, the bag makes it convenient to pot in. Just to minimize mess. And I'll tamp it in lightly, but I'm not going to compress the hell out of it. The seeds aren't going to like that. All right. So I might as well go through and do a couple more, because why not? If you're cringing watching me use tools, too bad. My hands are all calloused up anyway. It adds suspense. One there from Glad brand. Glad are pretty good. Maltix are sort of, I think, probably one of the worst ones. That's always a debate thing. How many have we got? Yeah, I'll go one more pot. Let's do that. The most riveting part is waiting for me to stab my fingers. Well, I kind of. I'll have to go over some stuff. I should have waited until some more people joined before I started. Grape Ape. Is it Great Ape? Yeah. Okay. Great Ape Genetics. Yeah. Oh, I didn't quite guess it right. There's a tiny bit left. Oh, no one ever argues about having a tiny bit left on the bag. I'm just going on how to germinate some older seeds. So we have some coriander seeds in lieu of something more exciting. But you can use this technique for any seeds you want, any seeds at all, any ones that you think you would want to use it for, anything. Yeah. So what we did so far is we cleaned them in hydrogen peroxide. We then put them in some dilute green supreme. I hyperlapsed into the future 12 hours, and we're now hydrating some superstarter up, and we're going to plant them. We've also dusted them with antimatter. So you can try and use your big fingers to get in there and mesh around with your seeds, but it's, if they've cracked the seed coat or something like that, I mean, it's not going to be it's you're going to break something inevitably. If you've got really fresh seeds, they've probably popped within 12, anyway, so they've got a little taproot there. I don't want to risk that with my things, so what I use is a pair of these, which have like a little bit of, they're proper forceps. You can just buy these at the chemist. They've got like a little sort of groove on the inside there that makes it easy enough to extract the seeds. The one thing that I sort of forgot was a dibber, but I've got one. Got a pencil. Right. So, I mean, normally if you're planting other more exciting and rare and valuable seeds, you're probably just going to want to put one per thing. Old souvenir seeds, or like get creative. You're probably just going to want to put one in each pot. But we're doing coriander, and so, I'm pretty sure that that's in wide circulation and easy to come by. So I'm going to put 3. Because why not? And in terms of depth, here's a really easy rule of thumb, right? Is you want to go about 2.5 times the size of the seed in depth. So if that's your seed, you want to go 2.5 seeds deep. So then you don't even need to do maths. You just go seed is, so if it's a bean seed, it's obviously going to go deeper than something like a coriander seed. If it's a really tiny little seed, you probably don't want to bury it at all. All right. So we'll do that. And then I will use the little forceps to just grab them out of there and drop them into their little homes. It's your home. Are you too good for your home? Answer me. I should have like some really dramatic sort of Star Wars style backing music while I'm doing this sort of stuff. Oh, yes, we made it in the hole. This is a game. You got to. Oh, we lost on the final round. Come on, in you go. Very nice. All right, cool. And then I'll just use. I love it to use a pencil for this, by the way. I'll just use the pencil to block in the backside of backfill the hole. Sometimes you got to poke it in there. Yep, there we go. And they're all good. Some people like to get a little bit and just kind of salt bay a tiny bit of soil over the top. If I'm going to do that, I won't use the hydrated mix. I'll just use some out of the bag. Dr. Jimbo Jones, nice to see you. And heirloom, word of the day. Heirloom, rare, valuable, all that sort of stuff, collectible. Just salt bay a little bit of the non-hydrated mix over that, just to make sure I don't get any washouts. Hey, be the bees and art. What's going on? You know, I actually had a bit of trouble getting all this together this morning. No surprises to anyone who's watched any of these things, but anyway. Oftentimes, the best of equipment is let down by the main nut driving it. Right. Then you're going to want to like mist those in. And of course, I've appropriately forgotten my misting bottle. So wait 1 second. Epic maneuver to go and get it. All right, so I found these actually work really good, which is strange. They're actually a nasal spray thing, and what I do is I modify them. I cut the little pipe off right down close, and then when you turn them upside down, you can just spray. But the reason that I like them is they're really carefully calibrated, so each spray is around, I think it's 2 or 3 drops. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'll come back over and just another couple, just judging by the look of it. And that's plenty. And they're good. So put those in a propagation area, somewhere warm, preferably keep them around 20, 23, 24 degrees, and they'll come up pretty quickly. If they're chili seeds or something like that, they're going to want to be at that temperature. And you should get better germination. If your seeds are hella old, like, you know, if they're 20 plus years old, that's always tough. You're never going to sort of get high germination rates, especially if they're stored incorrectly. But yeah, some of that stuff will help sort of get them up and working a little bit better than if you just sort of bung them in the soil by themselves. Oh, I didn't actually. Hang on, video paused. Oh, as for keeping a warmer environment, you're going to want to just use a heat mat with a thermostat, preferably. Not sure why the video is paused. Let's go over and check this thing. That seems to still be working over here. Okay, not sure. Close and reopen it. Now it's watching. Now it's working. Of course. Of course. So yeah, a lot of people, you can get little propagation tents now. Those are a good option if you don't just have an area you can set up, because you want to keep your propagating area as clean as possible. Like right here where I've just potted a whole bunch of stuff, you would want to clean all this down. Yeah, sorry, cause there's probably too much stuff for me to manage all at once. But you don't know how to do these things until you try and do them. There is nothing to it but to do it. So, where is it? You just gotta try it out. See how you go. All right, we managed to like get the seeds in the dirt though, and nothing, crashed. So let's pretend that I've just like done a whole presto changeo. I've got gloves on, and that I didn't just do a bunch of seeds and stuff like that right here where I want to do clones, because that's what I would say is that those two processes are very individual in terms of you got to keep them very, very clean. Seeds you want to keep clean too, but clones it's more imperative. So what we have now is I've just soaked these in just isopropyl. That's 70%. 90% works too. It dries faster. The trouble is the fact that it dries faster means that it actually doesn't work as well as a sterilizer. So yeah, you want it to actually stay on the blade and kind of sit there and kill off whatever's living on there. You don't want it to sort of immediately evaporate. So yeah, I've got some of that there. Just a pair of snippers and a blade. And then what I've selected today for our stand-in material is this Scotch bonnet pepper. Super, super, super hot one from Trinidad. They produce these ones here, which kind of look like a warped capsicum, but they're incredibly hot. Incredibly hot. And yeah, thanks to everyone that stayed viewing while I'm trying to get all this working. So yeah, I'll take. There's 4 pads there. I'm going to take a pad, and I'm just going to clean the blade and sit that there. I'm going to clean the surface. And then I'll use the back of the half of it to clean them. And then I'll chuck that. And there's 4 pads for 4 cuttings. Then what I do is I have a container of water, and I have another fresh cup. And so we'll put our fresh filtered water in here. And you may have seen this before. I don't know if you have or not. But even if you have, repetition, 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 right? So this is our stand-in material. You can use any material, any valuable vegetative material that you want to hold on to. Anything at all. Anything you can possibly imagine that, any dioecious or, monoecious annual trees or any sort. So we're going to want to defruit them. Cut off anything like that. Part of getting clones to survive is having enough material there for the plant to actually live on and perpetuate its roots, but not so much stuff there that it's trying to support a bunch. So having a bunch of fruit on there isn't really going to be that helpful when you're trying to get it to generate roots. And then we're just going to go through and cut down the lengths. So what I would probably do is cutting about that long. So I'm not going to cut it there. What I'll do is I'll come down and I'll cut it here and then straight into the water. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, there's still leaves left on that and stuff. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. It's worked out I've got an extra alcohol pad because it looks like I'm only going to get 3 cuttings. All right. Flower there. Flower there. Flower there. All right, so what I'll do, I think, is cut that there. And cut that one there. Why just re-veg it? Yeah. You can move all that stuff off to the side. All right, now once I've got them in there, then I'm going to go through and I'm going to cut the leaves down by half. So anything that's a larger leaf, cut it in half. And that one can probably stay. The reason that I do it in the glass is just because I've found that it's easier than trying to do it while it's still attached to the plant. I don't know. You may find it easier to do that. It doesn't really matter all that much. The way I do it isn't the way you have to do it. But there are a couple of things that you may not have done before that I might do here that might make, when you do your clones, a few more survive. I've always gotten pretty good success, and I find it quite relaxing to kind of mess with them. And there too. All right, so now they're all trimmed up. Take the blade, and what I like to do is trim the cutting under the water. So trim it there, and then cut it against the side of the cup. Be careful not to cut through the cup. Chili is quite a bit harder. There we go. All right. Now what I got the option to do is just set it there under the water while I get this. All right, so what I like to use for a rooting compound is antimatter. What I'll normally do is just grab one of the foily bags because it's super easy to just dip it in the little bag. So I'll grab it off there. There we go. Open the top. Enough to where I can get at the powder, which is there. Right. Now we'll head back over here. And grab ourselves some more media. Hey, Flannel. A few other people that have joined. I'm just grabbing some more super starter so I can fill some more pots. About half a bag full. One more and that'll be pretty nice. All right. Okay. Half a bag, half a cup. Did I see Greened Out Team on there before too? I think I did. Oh, you know what's going on? Because it's green material and I've got a green screen. I didn't think that through, did I? The plant is actually all green. Hey, Dactyos. All right, so more little cups with at about that level of moistness. So I'll show you in a second, but basically I did it before. There should be about the level of moisture where you can squeeze it really hard and you get around a drop come out of it, and that's perfect. Oh, it's okay, Dactyos. This one's been a bit of a disaster zone, but you know, that's any of my videos, isn't it? So yeah, if you squeeze it, can I get it on the Instagram camera? You should get about a drop. Oh, 2 drops. There you go, a little bit over. All right. Papa Bear Burnett. Hey, dude. What's going on? All right. Bam. Got my little bench. Got my little favorite pencil. It's a me koala. Hey, bro. All right. Now with the clone, you're going to want to get enough depth in the pot, not so close that you get all the way to the bottom, but enough depth in there that it's going to hold it nice and tight. There's a difference between how I will tamp the soil in for a clone and how I will tamp it in for seeds. So yeah, that also bears mentioning. And so a little trimmed up clone. I'm then going to go boom, straight into the antimatter, straight into the thing. And then I'm going to actually tamp that down well around the stem. And don't worry, it'll still drain and all that sort of stuff like that. But this is important. It needs to be tight around the stem, not like compress it to the point where it's like a puck, but it needs to be tight enough around the stem to promote callousing. Or like if there's any wiggle room or anything like that in there, it'll just take forever. And you also got to think that when the soil shrinks back a little bit, it's going to shrink back away from the stem. So yeah, it is important. So you should be able to, if I've done it right, live, yeah, tip it out, and it won't fall out of the pot. Cool. Let's see if I can do another one. See if I can do one more. Eh? Always take more clone material than you need. Okay. Yeah, so cut it under water. Bam. Into the powder. Into the media. Just like that. And then tamp it in. I don't bother with scraping or anything like that. Um, you may like to. I mean, some people like to split the end. Some people like to scrape the end. Some people like to do little, like, notches in it or anything like that. Personally, I've found that I could just, with that time, just take a couple of extra clones. And I find that when I do it this way, that I get a nice cut, and then roots will all sort of form right out of the end of that cut there. So I don't really tend to get a lot of stuff on the sides, but I get a nice nodule right at the base of it that just kind of unfurls out. So that's the way I like to do them. And then see if we can do it again. Yeah, and it didn't fall out. All right, cool. We'll get rid of that because that's now surplus to our needs. What prep was done? So I just trimmed down that cutting and all the rest of it and hydrated some super starter. So, for every liter of super starter, you probably want to use about 100 mils of water. Is probably about a nice amount. So then I can use the same little misting thing that I had before and some Green Supreme to give those little mist. Same. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So there you go. And when I mist them too, I'm not really trying to get them to the point where they're sopping, dripping wet. I'm just trying to just mist them. I might want to get them in the container, sort of go over and just give them another couple. But yeah, like I'm not. When you mist a plant heavily, you actually leach nutrients from the leaves. So I mean, even with foliar feeding stuff, you want to try and get it to the point where it's sitting on the leaves but not dripping off the leaves, if that makes sense. Cool. All right. Well, now I've got some chilies and I've got me some coriander. And you guys have probably all got a bunch of questions because my demonstrations are terrible. So, all right. I'll see if I can like head back over to this one and do that with the thing. Hang on, if I do that. All right. Do you like the elevator music? Also, I mean, I've got some chats over here on the restream too. I just haven't been able to. Oh, hang on, probably the mic's probably a bit hot now. Um, I haven't been able to see them because I've been over there. Over there. In the Loop is here. All right. Thanks heaps for bearing with me on that. I tried. It's yeah, hard to do stuff live. Um, I screwed up a bunch of stuff, I'm sure, and probably butchered a bunch of things, but greened out team, why? Where did you tune in at? The elevator music, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can do other stuff too. Like I can pitch my voice up and stuff like that.
Like, hi, Jimbo, how are you?
Um, there's a lot of fun features on this little board thing that I've got here.
I can even make my voice sound all soft and
Green Out Team tuned in during the elevator music. Yeah. Yeah. Um, that was great. All right. So invariably, you've probably got a bunch of questions from what I was doing over there, but that's okay. Hopefully, I'll have some coriander in the next little while. Right. Okay. So there we go. The MIDI pad. What if we go there? If I go, the air horn, is this too loud? That sounds a bit better. I need probably headphones or something. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. It was a spur of the moment thing. I mean, I had the action pad there, and I just sort of thought I'd hit it. Sometimes you just got to go with stuff, but I apologize. Another notch down. Jesus. Yeah, it would make sense that they've like programmed them all really hot. All right, let's not get distracted with the pads. It's totally not necessary. Let's get back to it. All right, so it's a me koala. I popped in late. What are your thoughts on snipping leaf tips? Yeah, so I did that on there. So they have had their, oh, God damn it, you can't see it because it's green, all right, but they're looking funky and stuff. I can't believe that I didn't even think of that a green screen and green cuttings would be an issue. Man, man, oh man. But yeah, snipping the leaf tips, basically taking about half the vegetative material off, especially your bigger leaves, any really big leaves, just snip them off entirely. That'll help. So help the cutting not lose too much moisture until it can actually develop some roots. So it's kind of a balancing act because you don't want to take off so much that there's not a lot of carb and nutrient reserves there. Um, but you don't want to leave so much on that it dries out so quickly that it kind of doesn't get a chance to grow roots. I think Dactyos asked what prep was done. So all I would do in terms of prepping the stem is I just basically snip the end off just slightly below where the node is. So wherever the last node was, I'll sort of trim around a quarter inch below that. But apart from that, I don't really scrape the stem, do much of anything else. I used to try and even put two nodes in the soil, but just having experimented a lot with it, I tend to find that just doing it that way for me works a bit better and tends to actually produce roots faster and more reliably. I've actually got a Homer Simpson shirt, Coco, that where he's like coming out of the bushes. I should have worn that one because all you would have seen is Homer and then like no shirt. I mean the plant still looks like plant. It's just got the background or broadcast on it, and I didn't actually think of that. I think that my reason for doing the cuttings that way is just one good cut with a clean razor, and I agree that in the demo you would want to like bleach down the area, all that sort of stuff like that, right? So ignore all that side of it. But one good clean cut through the stem with a good clean razor in clean water means that I don't have a bunch of potential for pathogenic sort of spots. So a bunch of, I mean, even though if I'm doing everything with the same razor in the same water, yeah, it's fine, but it's just more cuts, right? So more possible chances for contamination. The other thing I just found was that more injuries means it takes longer to heal. So whether that's because it's, trying to repair a bunch more damage, I don't know. But just, over a lot of clones over a long time, just found that, yeah, just doing that one works a bit easier and works more reliably. So definitely trim down your leaves. And, don't go crazy with trying to have ridiculous amounts of stem under the ground either. Some people take really huge clones, uh, which you can do. It just sort of depends on how vigorous the plant is, where you're taking them from, and all that sort of stuff. But I tend to find that ones that are around that size, frankly, about that big, um, work pretty good reliably. Um, Anything a lot larger, yeah, you'll still have some success. When you go too small, that seems to be where you have a lot of problems with trying to get survival rates up. So really small, soft tip cuttings, yeah, not ideal. Not going to have a lot of success that way. That's something else you should really, when you're looking at selecting your material, you want to like try and give it a bend. So it shouldn't crease over really easily. If it does, then it probably doesn't have enough carbohydrate reserves there to kind of even be in a position to be cloned. Um, so yeah, you'll find that around 5 inches ish down from the end of the stem is about where you want to be. So if you've got, mother plants that have been, for whatever reason, they're in a really soft, sort of sappy phase of growth. You might have fed them recently, or they might not be under enough light, something like that. Try and harden them up a little bit before you take cutting material from them, and then you'll get better survival rates. The softer the material, the more prone it is to rot, and that's the main enemy. So that's why I will dip the. You can argue that you don't really even need to use anything, which some people, get away with that. But I like the antimatter because it just tends to help with preventing any pathogens that are going to want to creep in there, by outcompeting them. Um, you can use, rooting compounds like your powders or your gel, which have a fungicide normally and a actual rooting hormone in them. But if you're trying to, keep no kind of PGRs in your grow, then yeah, you it's a bit of a challenge to kind of find things, organic things, um, that are going to help promote rooting. So yeah, one way to kind of facilitate that is keeping pathogens down. Antimatter seems to really help plants. It promotes root growth, so that seems to help as well. And then Green Supreme, I find, is a foliar with the salicylic compounds from aloe. Really helps with sort of, the plant. Whether it's that it helps bolster its metabolism or whether it has some sort of actual direct effect on promoting roots, not quite sure, but it definitely seems to work. Hello to everybody else that's joined. So I'll go. Hang on, where's my pencil? There it is. I'll draw it for you. But I'll go down to a node basically and then go a 1/4 inch below it. So I won't cut directly on the node, but I don't like to leave too much stem below it either because that can have a tendency to rot. So what you'll find is that the area that calluses the best and that seems to grow the best roots is right in that zone around the end of the node. That I think mainly is because that's a sort of a point where the plant differentiates a lot of different cell division from. So you can kind of exploit that. So if that is our stem and that is our node, going down to another node, then I'll take the cutting like there on a diagonal. You see that one, Pete? Is that visible? Yeah, right on the node is a bit. Yeah, so you want to be just slightly below it at a slight angle. If it's right on the node, then you can have problems with it not callousing properly. And if you leave too much stem, then you can also have problems with it not healing and callousing correctly. So the real battle is trying to get, that's where hydrating your media to the right level is also important, because if the media stays too wet and of course too cold too long, then those are the conditions that are going to promote rot, not promote um, kind of root growth. So you want to have it at a point where once it goes in there, it's moist enough that the plant isn't transpiring excessively, but not so over wet that you're going to rot things. That's that balance. So you ideally want to try and have root growth happening within 7 days if you can. And then you should have, transplantable clones within 2 weeks from doing that process through till the end. Someone asked before about ways to keep the area the proper temperature. You're really just going to want to focus on trying to have a heat mat in there with a thermostat. It's really important to have a thermostat on it. I know you can buy ones that don't have it, but the little spaces and stuff like that just don't really work tremendously well. You're better off getting a thermostat, thermostatically controlled one, or buying a thermostat and putting a dummy cube in there, or a dummy pot. Put that in there, so you're not having to mess with your actual cuttings. I also tend to find that just cloning in media, or soil. Some people use blocks, some people use cubes, like the Rubik cubes. There's a whole bunch of different things. I just use soil, and where I find a lot of people mainly screw that up is just over moistening it, which easy to do, um, and also not tamping it in around the stem. So, I mean, kind of dramatic when I was sort of showing flipping them upside down, but it wants to to feel like it's held in place well enough. It shouldn't feel like it's just wiggling all around in there. That's definitely not going to work real well. The Don. And what you gonna do? Nice to see you. So throughout the cloning process, I will foliar Green Supreme. I'll start with the humidity at about 100%. So, set the humidifier to like 99 or whatever it goes to. And then I'll taper that down by about 5% every couple of days. So the first day will sort of be, if you're using a dome, you can do the same thing with the vents. So just close your vents fully, and then gradually open those vents over the course of the week. And it is really important to start opening those vents. So a lot of people will try and wait until the plants have roots before they start to open them, which seems like the way you would want to go. But you really want to remember that they need to breathe, right? So again, getting back to that rot situation, everything needs to breathe. So you'll want to start opening those up just very gradually so that you can actually induce transpiration, so that just at a low level, so that you can actually get all the processes happening. Otherwise, you've just got a plant sitting in a box, stagnated, no air moving. Um, it's not really going to develop roots that way. So I'll start, around 99%, drop it about 5% every couple of days. So by the end of the first week, we're sort of still at a higher level than you would have in your veg enclosure. But we're trending towards getting into those, 70-ish range that I like to run in veg. So acclimating your plants is also important. I prefer to clone without a dome, so domeless cloning, just with a humidifier. So that's the easiest thing that I've found to do is just a small amount of airflow through, and a humidifier, and set that at the appropriate levels, and then just adjust it from there. And the plants I tend to find will grow roots exponentially quicker, and I have more option in the sizes of things that I put in there, because some lanky things, yeah, you they may be hitting the roof of the dome, which limits your cutting size, which, getting back to what I was saying about before, tends to limit um, how well they actually work. Okay, so yeah, over the next, yeah, that's a good one actually. So um, with the clones, apart from acclimating them, you really just you'll actually see like a tiny bit of yellowing right before they actually start to grow. So it might be that the plant actually starts its vegetative growth before the roots have actually kicked in. But in any case, that's normally a pretty good sign that they're actually on their way. And then once that lime green growth starts in the growth tip, then the same thing is happening underneath the soil. So from there, it's basically try and harden them off and get them acclimated, and wait for roots to, in the base of those containers, I'll wait until I can actually see it, a couple of roots coming out the base. So normally after 7 days, I'm starting to see something poking out of the base of the pot, maybe a couple of extra days, and I'll leave them in there until they're, at a point where they're drying out, or not drying out, but needing watering every day, um, before I'll transplant. That's how I know that there's enough roots in the pot to survive transplant. And with your seeds, you're really just going to want to watch and monitor those, keep them warm, keep them at the appropriate moisture level, and just wait for them to come up. Um, don't get tempted to do heaps of stuff like watering them or trying to apply more Green Supreme or something like that. There's a bunch of different um, avenues you can kind of go. The best thing to do is just to check them, check that they're moist, and leave them from there. Because yeah, the when you go in and you water them again, that's when you sort of start to get to the point where you're overwatering things, and that's when you rot your seeds. So it's really just a watch and act kind of a situation with them. But yeah, as for foliar Green Supreme, I foliar Green Supreme the whole way through the cloning cycle. That's basically when I miss them, that's what I'll use. So the rest of the time they're getting just demineralized or filtered water from the humidifier through the air. But yeah, when I go to actually spray them, which is, at least every couple of days, if not every day, it's just some dilute Green Supreme. And yeah, to make mix up easy, I just use enough to color the water with it. But 1 gram per liter is the rate that I recommend. Twin Flame. Dactyos there with some cool recommendations. Yeah, your two biggest enemies when it comes to um, decent propagation is too cold and too wet. Um, so, I mean, too cold, you can solve that just by adding some heat and too wet, you can solve that by, firstly, I think watering with a spray bottle is a great way to minimize that anyway, because like a little dribble from a jug, it might not seem like much, but yeah, it's oftentimes heaps more than what a little pot needs. Um, that alone, just watering with a spray bottle helps. And beyond that, um, just resisting the urge to do that sort of stuff all the time. So, not spraying the plants till they run off heavily, or run off at all. And just, yeah, resisting the urge to go in there and actually water all the time, because it's not going to make them happen quicker. If they just need a bit of extra time, and there's some varieties that are very slow, especially in cloning, then that's just the way it's going to be. You just got to sort of ride that out. And at a certain point, you got to know when to hit it and quit it. So if there's cuttings that they just, it's like week 2, they're just sitting there, not really anything's happening, you can give them a little while longer. Um, Seeds, I know you can have stuff come up after a month, but it's really unusual. Um, so I think propagation space is pretty valuable. Um, when it looks like the experiment is not going to work, just discard and start again with something else. Sometimes the seeds just might not be viable. They've been stored too long or inappropriately, or a variety of different things. You did the best you could, but doing the best you can doesn't guarantee any of those tips that I was going through. Don't guarantee success. They only sort of tilt the odds in your favor. A certain amount of that is technique as well. So you've got to develop your own, hand-eye coordination technique with a blade and all that sort of thing as well. Can't be ham-fisted about it. And Dactyos using 0.7 grams. Well, I suppose you're running some other stuff. Although I need to, say that bottles are for babies. But yeah, so yeah, it makes sense to run a little less. The nasal spray mister, yeah, man, just trying to think outside the box. How it actually started was I was trying to find. I thought, okay, you want just like a couple of sprays per pot, and you want a really metered amount. So I ordered a bunch of different spray bottles, all sort of different cosmetics ones and things like that. And found that I was measuring with small scales that measure to a high degree. Um, it's not blasphemy. I'm just saying bottles are for babies, man. This is a HBO broadcast. We love you, dude. Anyway, yeah. So when I was testing them all, it was the nasal sprayers that actually were the most accurate. So at that point, I was like, okay. The only trouble is that they mostly work, when the way I want to use it is upside down. So you just got to cut the tube off. But anyway, yeah, the reason came about that they were the most well calibrated small spray bottle that I could actually get. If you're ordering anything, just leave an order comment, and I'll chuck a couple in, or chuck one in, because I've got spares. These are the things that I spend time testing and mucking around with. Which spray thing can I get that is a micro spray bottle, has an accurate calibrated spray? Don't be salty. All right, cool. What do you reckon? Has anyone else got any other questions? Critic Candy gave up on one. Yeah, the other thing, okay, so one that hadn't come up. And then a week later it sprouted in the dark. That's a bummer, dude. Yeah, that is a bit of a bummer. I mean, it's one of those things. 2 to 3 weeks is normally about the length of time that I'll leave stuff. Normally I'll find that if I dig through or screen the soil and find the seed, that it's normally rotted. Um, But yeah, the other thing that sometimes happens too is the plant will come up and it'll sort of put out its cotyledons and then won't do anything else. It'll just sit there and in kind of this perpetual seedling state. Sometimes they'll even actually enlarge, but nothing else will happen. Those ones, when you see them, just yeah, pluck those out. They're completely useless. But that's the thing, they're variable, right? So for every keeper that you're going to get in a pack, you're going to get some that are just like, what the hell happened there, man? And especially with all the hybridization these days, the amount of gene pairings that are kind of going on, it's inevitable that you're going to get um, some wrong matchups in there. Dank Dan, nice to see you, dude. It was a bit rough, this one. I mean, they're all a little bit rough, but yeah. Anyway. Oh, so you salvaged it, Critter. Oh, that's good. Oh, so that's the thing. Plants are a lot more adaptable. I once knew of someone um, that had thrown something away in a compost bin in summertime, and then someone came over and was like, "I can't believe you would throw that away. Why would you do that? I want that." And he's like, "Well, it's there in the compost." And so this guy went through the compost, took material, and cloned it from that. And so it's like, wow, that's certainly resilient, isn't it? Okay, so a good one there from Time for Some Action on YouTube. Thoughts on taking cuttings in flower, or rather, uh, either taking cuttings while the plants are in flower, or rooting clones on 1212. That's actually a super good technique for if you're running through a bunch of stuff and you want to find out what sex things are before you get to the point of potting them. So, soil is precious and valuable. So is lamp real estate. Um, so if you got a bunch of stuff, you're running out of pack, they're all regs. You want to find that out. You can take clones from things that are in veg and just clone those on 1212, just to the point where you actually see some flower initiation. So whether it be a couple of pistils or whether it be some kind of staminate development. But yeah, um, of course, marking all the plants so that you can keep an eye on which came from where. Um, then you can rogue out what you don't want. The other thing that sometimes people will do is take cuttings from things that are in flower. Um, if they've already got any appreciable amount of flower development, so like you're into week 2 or 3, they're going to have to go through the re-veg phase. So that, a lot of the timeline will stretch way out, but you can certainly do it. Like plants will still be clonable even into sometimes mid flower, even deep flower sometimes, like a sort of week 6, you can still technically do it with lower branches. But that first 2 to 3 weeks is a pretty safe bet. But just expect them to take longer because they've got to develop roots and then they've actually got to grow out of that pre-flowering phase that they're kind of in. But you can do both. Critter, that you need to stop torturing that plant, man, or I'm gonna call the PSCA. They'll come and fine you or something like that. Wow, week 7. That's amazing, dude. Oh, well, I'm glad, like, some of y'all are really trying to push the envelope in here. Like, monster cropping in week 7. That's pushing it. And no problem time. It's amazing. You take, like, I think it was 4 weeks off, and it's actually hard to get back in the swing of these things a little bit. Also, like, the tech, I appreciate y'all for, like, bearing with me on that. I'm getting used to some stuff. But we will overcome it. We will figure it out. All right. I'm going to go and put those things in the propagator. Hopefully next week I have some coriander and I have some chili cuttings. That'd be cool. And clean up all the dirt that I got everywhere. So yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate it all, and I'll see you on the next one.